I know we're 1-4. We're all frustrated. Can we have a slight laugh here?
I'd like to have a laugh.
All right. So Jerry Jeudy today was asked about the Browns' 4-quarterback plan from camp and the reps given to Flacco and Pickett, who are no longer here, and whether that was a waste of time. I would dare say he dropped the answer on this.
I won't say a waste of time, I don't know what that was, I'm pretty sure everybody thought they'll still be here throughout the season, but, things change.
Well, it wasn't a waste of time.
I don't know what that was.
I don't know what it was.
That's just an honest answer in the moment. Yep. Of like, I'm trying to. Those are the moments where athletes they get to be livid at the situation, and they get to be mad that they have to be the meat shield and the ones that stand in and try to justify a decision by a front office and coaching staff that they don't even agree with.
I just love that he was just flat out like, I don't know what to call it. That's just so that's endearing. Like when somebody gives you I didn't hear any vitriol, I didn't hear any frustration. I just heard I cannot call it a waste of time.
Yeah,
not allowed to call it a waste of time. I also don't know what it was.
I think we need to add this to the Kevin Stefanski criticism board as we move forward. The idea that, and it was not just a local, this was a national narrative in training camp moving up to it, was like, wait, we've never seen 5 quarterbacks try to all get reps, all try to actually make a real run for it. I threw a 5th in there. You guys know why. But that was the narrative. We've never seen that many quarterbacks in one camp. And turns out, it didn't work out very well.
They didn't have a 4-way quarterback competition. It started as a 3-man quarterback competition plus Shador. Then Kenny Pickett got hurt, so Dylan Gabriel became the de facto backup. It wasn't an honest
4-way competition, but that is how they tried to bill it to us. It was this 4-way competition, and then even at times you can even throw Snoop Huntley in the mix there as well. But that's how they tried to broker that, and everyone said we've never seen this.
The only thing I will say,
and then it didn't work
because there are a lot of people. But what is the definition of working? They went into camp with Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, and Shador Sanders as quarterbacks. That is the island of misfit toys when it comes to quarterbacks. Granted, how they did it still didn't set right with me, but it's there's a lot of people it was a total failure. It's where were you 3 months ago? Where were you 4 months ago when we pointed out the quarterbacks? And I'll say the names again. Were Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, and Shador Sanders.
Right,
but at this point, first 3 stink so bad, or they didn't believe it so bad that I was I guess we're going to see Shador.
Here's the difference, is that if they would have put out there, if Flacco would have made it to week 11 or week 12, we would have been all right, they had a plan. It looked like they tried to go through with it. There was a process that they undertook, and the results didn't get there, whatever. It's in week 5, we dismantled their 2 top dogs in that race, in Flacco and Pickett.
But
both aren't wearing Browns uniforms.
But you got a 5th rounder for a guy you paid a 5th round for.
It's week 5. That's where it becomes comical. That's where we get to all do the laughing and be like, wait, this is this big competition, this big everything. You didn't believe in any of them. So they know it. They didn't believe in any of them.
Now, granted, again, I was the guy that said I didn't like the timing of the trade yesterday, so I have to kind of stick to that. But it's also Joe Flacco. It's also Kenny Pickett. It's also Dylan Gabriel. This was a one-track ticket to getting pounded town.
As dead on arrival as it was.
From April.
Yes, as dead on arrival as it was. How they went about it, it just... I mean, they messed it up in a magnificent way.
Now, we do have to get to Kevin Stefanski's surprise. And again, if you're just listening to Kevin's answers, meaning just the words or his tone, I think you missed a lot in today's press conference. We're starting to get press conferences that feel like there's some underlying tension there. It feels like there is some pressure bubbling to the surface in Berea, and if you listen hard enough, you can't hear it, even though Kevin Stefanski isn't Hugh Jackson screaming at the media or Freddie Kitchens doing all the many things that Freddie Kitchens did.
He's still fighting up there right now. He is. He's like a boxer. He's still fighting, where you're going to get at some point in the next couple weeks, if it continues to go downhill, he'll just resign himself. Might actually resign himself, but actually in the conversations he'll resign himself, and we're not going to see a little bit of a fight that we had today.
So one of the first questions. So there's the question, and then there's a follow up within this about the Joe Flacco trade and whether Kevin was surprised or not.
The Joe trade took us by surprise. That was not something that we saw coming. They called us, and it happened very fast and happened not too long ago. So still working through all roster type of things. I always have to be mindful of our players and our players' development. And I want to make sure that I'm always doing what's best for our players and, of course, our team. But, with young players, I'm always thinking about last week making the change to Dylan. You have to think long and hard about that because these are young players that you're so invested in their development. So I'll let the week play out, make a decision later on that.
You didn't plan on trading Joe Flacco?
No.
Why did it happen, though? Why didn't you trade him?
Well, obviously AB makes those decisions. I trust AB. We talk about every decision we make. They wanted Joe. They made the phone call. Obviously, it gives Joe an opportunity to go play again, but I trust in our decisions.
So the first half of that, there wasn't a lot of that. That the second, then why did you make the trade?
Why did that happen?
And I would say triple pump.
And then Stefanski laughed.
Yeah. And the little what was it? AB, like, I'm sorry, that tells you that there is tension there. And tension isn't always like two people hating each other or just not getting along. It's two people with different mindsets going in. And it's apparent, big picture-wise, the Browns organization seems to be setting sail on this season. And Kevin Stefanski, who has boots on the ground, is not ready to do that. I'm going to go out on a limb here. Going to go out on a limb and say not only did it surprise him, I don't think Kevin Stefanski was a big fan of the Joe Flacco trade.
Didn't sound like it. I am a little bothered by how surprised he was. Maybe he just didn't think Joe Flacco had any value at all. Is that the problem?
No, I think he would.
Think about it. Like Cincinnati was going to need a quarterback. They were just when they were calling Jameis and they're calling for Russell Wilson, they're calling for these guys. Did he just think that Joe Flacco wasn't in their class?
No, I think he probably thought, well, they already traded Kenny Pickett. They're not going to leave me with Bailey Zappi, Shador, and Deshaun as my potential backups.
Welcome to a 1-4 football season.
No, 1-4. It's incredibly. So the way that you were right in the previous thing about just having the conversation about how bad the reaction to how bad the quarterback plan was and how it's worked out, you can say the same thing about if the organization 5 weeks in is like, all right, well, what do you guys think about 2026? And we're going to make all moves in about 2026. Yeah, if you're the head coach, you're allowed to have your ankles shook a little bit on that.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like he should have seen that coming just a little bit, even though I guess a lot of people didn't see it coming ourselves. So I can't hold him responsible for it. He did try to position this as though they met with him and it was a group thought, and it didn't read that way to me, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way it read to me is the cracks are appearing in the foundation, and you and I have been talking about this off air for a while. There's a time and place for this conversation, and it still feels incredibly premature because you've got a slate of games after Pittsburgh that even if you're 1-5, even if you're ugly 1-5,
very winnable games up ahead.
That there's still. I'm not giving up on the idea that the Browns are playing good enough football to do things after the first 6 games of the season. That being said, I don't think it's hard to look at the situation right now and think, you know what? Kevin probably realizes that the ground is moving beneath his feet, that Andrew Berea is positioned with this draft class, and maybe just with a more in tune relationship with the Haslams, that he's positioned to stay, and that Kevin is being positioned as the fall guy. And I can understand if that's starting to frustrate Kevin because he has been a meat shield for an organization that they failed the fans more than anything. They failed the locker room right under that. They've failed Kevin with some of the rosters they put out there as well, and whether he was the guy that came up with the idea, supported the idea, or they did it in spite of him, sat through a lot of stinky decisions.
Kind of got like a Pesci and Goodfellas vibe, where it's like you were the one that took people out for so long, and then now all of a sudden, then you are the one that blindsided and got taken out. Like in Stefanski's tenureship, we have watched, and there definitely been fall guys that have not been where Stefanski wanted this to change. Right? I thought Joe Woods was something that Stefanski wanted done. Alex Van Pelt wasn't.
Yeah,
Alex Van Pelt was somebody he wanted to keep around, and that was the front office.
Bill Callahan.
Yeah, that was the front office being like, no, this is where we're making our change. And so it's been interesting to see as they've sniped off somebody year after year after year, if now it just becomes Stefanski's time to then get sniped off himself.
I mean, this is the problem with having an organization that needs a fall guy. I'm not saying that fall guyism is incredibly prevalent in sports, but at the heart of that usually is bad leadership or short-sighted leadership. There's a part of me that goes, all right, and I know like what an owner says in March does not hold water a month later, let alone 6 months later.
They change their minds the way that we all change our minds.
But there's a part of me that's like, all right, in the grand cosmos of things, I don't think fans in general have given Kevin enough blame for the failures in the quarterback rooms. That's something that has confounded us, and that I've gotten people pissed at me on social media about, and I still don't get. At the same point, if you're Kevin and you're a little irritated that it feels like you're being set up to fail now, and I mean, maybe you felt that way coming into the season, but now that it's gone this way, it feels like it's fast-tracked. There's a part of me that is empathetic to the human being, because of all the people in that organization, he's the guy that I don't question the human being as much as.
Yeah, well, I mean, we got to be adults about this too. Like, I can like a guy and think he's a good human, but it doesn't mean that he needs to keep his job either.
No, fair. But I can also think a guy's a bad human and think he should lose his job too.
Well, it's easier when I think they're a bad human, for sure. But like, again, it's part of the idea with
like
Stefanski.
when the dirtbags who aren't good at their jobs keep their jobs after this, and the good guy, the good human, loses his job, even if I think he's an average head coach at best. There is some sort of inner turmoil that I have at that idea when the guys behind the real masterminds of the failure, and we're talking mostly about Deep Podesta, we're talking a fair amount about the front office, that can be pretty frustrating.
I don't want it to seem like because I would never paint Stefanski as some sort of a martyr in this situation.
I don't think so. I just think
he's earned losing his job if after 6 years you've won one playoff game.
No, 100%. But I think everybody else there has also.
Now, I think he's probably pissed about how his reputation is going down the toilet right now, and he looks at it, and this is the response that I said any national person should pick up: is if you give me 7-2 offsuit and tell me to go win the World Series of Poker, and that's the only hand I'm dealt, how am I ever going to win the damn thing? And like, if I was Stefanski, I would. That's the message I would send to everybody if this does go south for him. But I think he's mad right now. I think he thought he was Teflon as far as the narrative that he would have another job in a second, and now in the previous 2 weeks we've seen that completely flip up on its head and not be the narrative at all.
I think usually when we hear Kevin say something in a press conference, even something that is clearly maybe antithetical to what he thinks, they usually go, well, little deal, here's why it's not that. No, this is a big deal. Kevin's saying he was surprised and then asked, why'd you make the deal? And he went to, I trust AB's trades, and this was an AB decision. That's a very clear, while I'm with Andrew Berry, let me distinguish between myself and Andrew Berry.
Here's where I feel
different than previously.
Here's where I feel bad for him, is that he's been a good soldier the entire stretch of the way. He's done their bidding. He's done everything they've asked him to do, and you can tell it started to turn on him. And when it turned on him right now, there's nobody else out there defending him in his honor or any sort of way. It's up to him to try to do that, and he's got nothing no ground to stand on there. It's incredibly tough for him.
I think the only other thing that I kind of continue to go on, and again, I would have fired Stefanski at the end of last year. Last year really bugged me with how he went about things. And I do think Kevin can, while I think he's a very good human being, I think he'd be arrogant or stubborn. I think he can be a lot of things that get in the way of him being a much better head coach. That being said, there is a part of me that looks at this and goes, the whole thing kind of stinks. The whole thing kind of stinks, and maybe fall guyism is the wrong way to go if it's just one guy being the fall guy.